So Michael, give me a thumbs up if you see my page. Thank you. I treat everybody like a student. I can't help it. So this is called teletherapy and tele-assessment strategies to support your fall planning. I want to congratulate everyone for doing what we had to do starting in March. And as far as I'm concerned, everybody stepped up to the plate. And I'm very impressed with all of us. As I started to say before, my name is Margaret Curley, and I've been working as a speech pathologist for more than 20 years and a teletherapist for 7 years all across the country. I have a license in New York, California, Oregon, Washington, Maine, Vermont, and Pennsylvania. Like I said, the West Coast really was the most advanced when it came to teletherapy. And I do believe it's going to change moving forward because school districts realize that it is a worthwhile pursuit to provide services. It looks like everybody has muted your microphones, and I appreciate that. If I hear any background noise, I will refer to that again. So let's start with discussing what the difference is between teletherapy in the brick and mortar, which is what I did for the first 7 years, and remote teaching in the home. I've worked with primary support personnel and I've worked with SLPAs. And all they had to do, and it was very easy, would be in the morning, they'd turn on their computer, they'd check the headset, and that was it. I would stay online just like any other teacher or therapist. When I didn't have a session, I would turn off my camera so I wasn't distracting to the other students who were walking past my computer. But other than that, when my slippers had a question, they would say, "Margaret, are you there?" And I'd immediately turn on my camera, and I always would make a joke and say, "I'm always here." I'm not snooping on anybody, you know, but I would listen in and I would do my work and I would do my logs just like everybody else. I like talking to my slippers throughout the day, and from what they have said to me is they appreciate investigating teletherapy because they learned a lot more about digital materials. They learned a lot more about computers. They got to see me in the side of their eyes while they were doing therapy themselves, how I did my sessions, what my pacing was. And then they also helped me set up the computers when I was doing IEPs. So from their point of view, they said that they learned a lot, and I really appreciated that. They would call my students to the session, and then they would walk away. And if there was ever an issue that the students would have some kind of small tech issue or something like that, I would always cue them to raise your hand, look at the teacher in the room and say, "Miss Margaret needs your help," or "Can you, you know, there's something on the computer that needs to be exited." So it was very intuitive. It was very easy. Now, doing remote teaching in the home is completely different, as we've all witnessed. Parents' computer skills are all over the spectrum. Their technology, their connectivity, how well they are able to juggle all of this has been a challenge for everybody. The home environment varies greatly. Do the parents remember the schedule? Was it easy? Did they remember the login every day? Were there siblings in the house who are also expecting to have work done at the same time? Mixing the parents' schedule, whether it's a work schedule or just getting things done in the house, including assisting their children in the learning schedule, was very challenging. So what I would like to do come September is try and make it as easy as possible for all the parents. So what have we learned from remote teaching in the home is, as I said, when you give a teacher or a therapist a challenge, they succeed. And I am so impressed by everybody. And I say here that growth mindset is not just a saying, we really did live it every day. There were a lot of therapists who never did anything remote, but they stepped up to the plate and they learned it, and they learned it well, they learned it quickly. And I think everybody still wants to learn more. I think we also learned that we all know what our students' needs are. So if you can identify the need, then the therapist just wants somebody like me to show you the first steps, to show you the website or the methodology. And then everybody just kind of runs with it. They make it their own. We learned that it can be something that we can continue doing. When we move back into the brick and mortar, maybe everybody wants to incorporate technology and computers into our children's future, because realistically, you know that children at 2 years of age are already using their parents' cell phones. So their future is really computer generated. So I think school districts have to start doing more. Another thing that we learned is equity should be top priority. So we have to take the extra time to facilitate the families who are at risk. So who's at risk? The families that don't have internet access, the bilingual families that they can't help their children with the homework, the students who have accommodations and what assistance we need to do in order for them to be successful on the computer. And of course, there's always students who are potentially regressing during this time. How can we make it better for them? I will show you in my attendance sheet, which will be later on in the presentation. I divide my attendance sheet up into different categories. It's not just alphabetical, but it's bilingual children, children who have accommodations, and then the rest of the crowd whose families can accommodate, who know what to do on the computer, who have a good handle of everything that's going on. So I worry about the families that are at risk. I want to help them. I want the children to be successful. In addition to that, I believe that families need an offline option. And in this presentation, if you look on the upper left-hand corner, there is a make available offline. So if you were to make a Google slide for your speech student, for your OT student, click on the offline so that way they can go through the Google slide, they can do their learning, and they don't need internet for everything. Like I said, come September, I would like to show all school districts that the parents need simplicity in execution and access. They also need somebody at the school during school hours to assist with the tech support, because tech is just, you know, without tech, you don't have teaching right now. And then the last thing is I believe in co-teaching. I believe in using classroom teachers' materials to accelerate our goals of a speech person, of an OT. I think that this previous spring, we had a all hands on deck. And here's some of the successes that I've heard along the way. Providers have learned a lot from the training, which I'm very proud of. And if anybody wants to go back to therapytravelers.com, the previous trainings are online. So you can rewatch my previous trainings. There's OT, there's psych, there's art as well. Students have learned not just how to use technology, because we know they know how to use an iPad, or they might know how to use the computer, but now they know how to use it educationally. And I believe that those things are separate. You know, to play a game with an iPad is not the same as to use the iPad for education. In the beginning, I had some families be able to join the Google Meet or the Zoom meetings, but with enough education, I was able to talk the parents through it. So by the end of June, I had the most participation. So that was, I thought, was definitely a success. The other thing that I heard a lot of positive response from is the IEP meetings that we held. Parents felt like they were participating more. And in my IEP meetings for the bilingual families, I was able to, before the meeting, translate the paperwork so that they could read along with my meeting. So yes, we were required by law to have a translator there, but not only did they have somebody interpreting the information that was being shared in the meeting, but they were also able to read it on the screen, on their computer screen, on their, you know, their child's computer screen. So there was a lot of positive feedback with regards to the parents participating. They didn't have to come into the school. They didn't have to take a day off from work. There was a lot more flexibility in what time the IEP meetings were. So that was a big success. All the rest of them, I think you can read for yourself. Working with students in an online setting has the potential of giving a deeper understanding. I have some students whose parents told me that their reading skills improved quite a bit during remote learning because I was able to pull them out and see them one-on-one instead of in the group. So they were able to read at their level, but still work on their speech goals. So that was nice to hear. Some students were not just attending remote learning, but they were actually thriving in remote learning, which was nice to hear. Parents are engaged in the schoolwork, absolutely. Like I said, bilingual parents felt like they were more part of their child's learning. And then all hands on deck. Teachers really were helping each other, finding good materials. Challenges that we still had by the end of June that I would like to address going forward is paperwork and finding grade level materials that are good and quick to find. Getting the signatures for the IEPs were challenging, but with e-signatures, I think that's a legal issue, but my school district that I work for has worked out how to get e-signatures from the parents. And then what do we do about the children who are regressing? We make sure that everybody is meeting as a team and seeing what we can do. How can we better support them? Teachers wanted a meeting every week, so we're going to, moving forward, have a meeting every week so we can talk about the things that are successful, the things that that we still need help with. And then the last thing is using the assistants in the classroom. The teachers wanted more ideas as to how to use the assistants better. So what do we need to do differently? This is a big deal to me because I really feel like I want to make it as simple for parents as I possibly can. So if your school district is handing out computers again, I don't know um, how many school districts collected the computers at the end of the year, but I know that my school district for my children did collect it. The school district I work for, they did collect it, and I assume they're going to be handing them out again. I would like to talk to the SPED director and the principal and the IT department to better prepare the computers. So that way we could put translation software on. We could put on dyslexia fonts on them. We can have school-approved websites already uploaded to them. We can provide a starter kit to suggest where in the home that they should sit, what the lighting is, you know, simple things like that. And then the last one, it's all depending on whether the school administration agrees with it, but there are some parents who just are not tech savvy. And if they're not, then we should consider a remote desktop app so that if they input a code, that I, being the tech person, can control your screen and I can do things from my office to control your screen so that all the parent has to do is now click on something for their child. I don't want everybody to have this remote desktop app, but I do want administration to consider having that control. We're going to flip the classrooms with videos if you haven't used videos before. I want easy self-paced materials, which I'm going to show you as soon as we're done with this. And then possibly we're going to simplify the schedules or modify the mandates and the goals and the accommodations. I hear a little echo. I don't know whether that's me or not. Let me see. I'm just getting that in mind. Hold on. All right, let's see if that works. Okay. Something that I read and that should be considered is the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards recommends that school time for elementary school is 1 to 2 hours, middle school is 2 to 3 hours, and high school is 3 to 4 hours. So I tell my parents that I have provided about 30 minutes of speech materials, but don't do it in one setting. I want them to stretch it across the day or to stretch it across the week because I don't want to overload the parents. I feel that in the springtime, parents were overloaded at times with, you know, if my child has speech and OT and the classroom work, that was a lot. So here are some of the things that I talked about. This Chrome remote desktop is exactly what I was talking about for the administration or the IT department, so that for those parents who just are not tech savvy, this helps them upload the things that their student needs. But I do it for them. I do it for their computer remotely. I will show you in my speech template that I use an online voice recorder. I also use an online video that I add to my sessions. For the children who need the extra assistance, there is a add-on called Open Dyslexic, which changes the font of any paperwork. I don't know how they do it, but they do it somehow. There's Google Translate, which I used a lot with my school district. When I find materials, as I'm watching TV, I'm always looking for materials, sad to say, but my hobby is kind of education and teletherapy and speech therapy. So even when I'm watching television, I'm still looking for things. I still am investigating materials and whatnot. So when I see something good, I usually use my snippet tool and I save it on my computer so that I can imitate it or I can copy it somehow. And then for the students that need help because their reading is not up to par, there's a reading and writing for Google Chrome. And that's just another add-on so that the students can get extra assistance when they're doing their work. Things to consider, and you can bring this up with your administration. What will be the rules for students' absences or limited engagement or not turning in assignments? I think by the fall, parents and students should be expected to do potentially more than they were expected in the springtime. I know, speaking for my school district, my daughter's school district, is they told them off the bat that it was a pass-fail, that the grades were not going to change. And I have to tell you, for a 15-year-old, that's kind of a, that's giving her the option to do the work that, that she was assigned. So I would like rules to be in place. There was a lot of evaluations, triennials, IEPs that were paused in the springtime. So that has to be addressed. We have to make up for the triennials of last year. And of course, we have more triennials and annuals coming up this year as well. Do we have students who need to move from group therapy to individual therapy? Whether it's they need more support, whether the parents have issue with a privacy issue. So that has to be decided and discussed. And then, of course, is how are we doing our paperwork and our service minutes? I continue to do the website, the school website that was given to me. We use, what do we use? We use Paradigm. I knew it was on the tip of my tongue. We use Paradigm for our daily logs. So I continued to use Paradigm both for when I made a asynchronous classroom assignment to the students, and I also use Paradigm for my live face-to-face sessions. So my paperwork did not really change very much. The only thing that I added to my attendance sheet was the phone calls that I made to the parents because either the student wasn't attending the sessions or wasn't handing in the work. So those were kept on a separate sheet. Something else to talk about with the SPED directors is what's going to happen moving forward if we need time off, if we have you know, an absence ourselves, if somebody in our family is sick or we get sick with the virus. So that should be discussed. I already talked about the service mandates changing if needed. the students who in committee have been determined to not be eligible for evaluations in the home, then we need to decide whether we can schedule the students for in-school evaluations. I think psych is hard to do in the home. Articulation evaluations are pretty easy to do in the home, but it's by case basis with students. Will staff need to take on additional duties because of COVID? I know that in my template, which I'm going to show you in any minute now, I have some social emotional books that they can watch. I have a piece of artwork that they can do at home that talks a little bit about COVID. I mean, you can tie it into vocabulary, you can tie it into current events, you can tie it into social emotional. Do you feel comfortable in addressing this? Do you want assistance from your social emotional psychologist to make recommendations, or do you want to just leave it up to the classroom teachers? So this is something that all my parents to have access to. Is I've developed this idea of a schedule where if you go to the 3 dots at the upper right-hand corner, and if you go to more tools and you create a shortcut, that's going to be on the opening page of, so I'll do that now. Let's see if I can show it to you. So I just moved it a little. I'm hoping that you can see it. So if I create a shortcut, then it pops up on my opening page of my computer. That way parents, when they turn on their child's computer, they can have their child's schedule. So they just have to click on it. So when they click on it, they will have their child's email, their class code or link to Zoom, their teacher's class, their schedule, and then a hyperlink. Say they attend speech with me. I have made this into a hyperlink, and I don't know whether you are familiar in how to make a hyperlink, but this would be my Zoom room that they would attend at 12 o'clock. All they'd have to do is click on the hyperlink. So if you're unfamiliar in how to make a hyperlink, you highlight it. Let's see if I can highlight. And then you go to Insert and Link. And then you cut and paste your information, your Zoom room or your Google Meet information into it. And then it's there so that the parents just click on it. I also have a how-to video right here from Loom. So if you need a quick walkthrough yourself, you can click on my Loom. And then as I discussed, there is tech support, English and Spanish. The website's important, especially as school districts are giving updates on a weekly or monthly basis, and then the phone numbers. So I would like the parents to have easy access to everything as soon as they turn on their child's computer. Like I said, I've spent 7 years or so compiling a list of websites. I would say the majority of these are free. If I do spend money, I do it for a period of time, and then if I get bored with the games or if my student gets bored with games, I look for another website, and I don't pay them. I'm just looking for ideas. So in the middle is articulation. I have some for OT, even though I'm not an OT. I have reading, and then I have language. And if you expand on the screen, make it bigger, then you'll be able to see better. uh, all of my suggestions. And I believe that this will be, the websites will be on the Therapy Travelers website as well. I don't know whether anybody is a Twitterer, but I am, and I follow a lot of education and remote teaching teachers. So Slide Mania, which is hyperlinked here, turns out that Slide Mania is a free offering from a woman who works in finance, but makes slides like these for fun. And they're great. They're very educational, fun looking ideas. And I have some in my template that I'm going to show you. Alice Keeler is fantastic. Flipped Classroom Tutorials is great. He really is a remote teacher one-on-one. So if you're not familiar with Zoom, you're not familiar with Google Classroom, you're not familiar with Google Slides, he gives the teachers step-by-step instruction as to how to make it your
Hi,
own.
sorry. I'm on a Zoom meeting. Sorry, just like kind of looks really cute. Yeah, I thought, are you? I wish I had room. I don't.
I think we have one person who's not on mute.
Oh no, I love them.
Margaret, I'm sorry to bother you, but you're on mute. Okay.
Okay. Yep. So I'm just going through the list. Songs for Speech Therapy I've used for all of my elementary school students. It does language and articulation. Go Noodle, Jack Hartman. Stop me if you're familiar with these, but these are just things that I use on a regular basis. And Loom Video, I will show you. And the reason why I don't spend a lot of money is because of the open educational resources, plus the fact that I believe if we use teachers pay teachers too much, they are not specific to grades. You know, so sometimes we're underestimating what students' vocabulary words are. So I really rely heavily on what the teachers are giving their students. So these are things to consider when we actually eventually go back to brick and mortar. Will you continue to use Google Classrooms? Will your school I still hear somebody. Will your school still have computer use for all of the students? I hope so. I would like therapists and teachers to continue sharing their materials to better serve the students, because I believe that it has been really effective to borrow and use what the kids are using in the classroom. I hope we continue to use teleconferencing for the IEPs, and we'll see whether the schools want to invest or decide whether online testing is an option that is worthwhile. I've been doing testing for 7 years and it's effective. So the next comes our assessments. So this is an example of the meeting for a bilingual student. And this is one of my simple ones because I didn't want to go into too much detail, but it enables the parents to be able to understand it a little more, what's going on, what the goals are, what the expectations are of the meeting, and the pacing of it. I didn't attach any of the documents because of, you know, HIPAA, but after the discussion of what the IEP looks like, then I would start the IEP paperwork. This is an example of all of the online testing. So anything that you test in the school, you can test online using a computer or an iPad. So it's has everything. And then this is the other publisher. I've used the Arizona, I've used the Castle. I have not seen a difference between testing face-to-face and testing using the computer. So if your school district says that we have to catch up with our triennials, then discuss with the SPED director or the principal that these are available. And if anybody has any questions before they do their first testing, in the Therapy Travelers website, there's an Ask Margaret page. So you can ask any question. You can even ask to meet with me one-on-one so that I can be the therapist, you can be the student, or you can be the therapist and I can be the student and you can practice with me. Here is the certificate that anybody is interested in. We're going to have it as a PDF and we can fill in your name and it's good to go. I'm going to walk you quickly through my Google Classroom. This is just a demo, so I don't have any of my students on here, so nothing wrong with that. So here's an example of something that I sent my students in the springtime. So we were working on nouns. So I would show them my Google slide. And you can make it as cutesy or as basic as you want. I've spent a lot of time doing this, but like I said, you know, I do this for fun. And I have a lot of hyperlinks in everything. This hyperlink is to a months of the year song. This hyperlink is to a days of the week song. Hyperlink to how to tell time. Here is a free reading website. And it goes from pre-K to 6th grade. So every student, and it's also in Spanish, English and Spanish. So every student can pick a book based on their comfort level. So even if they're reading below grade level, there's a book for them and it's all free. And then Loom is where I have my instructional videos. And I'll show you in my next slide that's coming up. I always do a check-in. How are you feeling? And the students get to move it. I have a speaker here that
drag and drop the star anywhere on the page.
So if the student has a hard time reading it, they can click on the speaker and they can read along with me. And then they follow the instruction. As you can see, it's written in English and Spanish if you so need it. And then I have my week's activities, and I always put the current week on top. So down here is the 22nd, and below that is the activities, and here's the 29th. And I just restack it, you know, so they can work on their games, they can work on their activities, you know, anytime. So this week we're working on plural nouns. And here's another hyperlink. I use Safe YouTube because it gets rid of all advertising. And we faster or slower.
One cat, two cats, and one dog. One hat, two hats, and one dog. Two.
So that's an example of one of the videos that I use. And then comes our activity. When I have a live session, I usually go over the activity that was assigned to them, and then I'll have a new activity to make sure that they understand the concept. And then if you consider the video and the two activities, and I often have a game, which I guess I didn't attach to this week's session, it adds up to about 30 minutes. So I write down that they met their mandate of 30-minute session. I don't have my red dot. I don't know what happened to my red dot, but I usually provide them with one. And then I try and give them a little computer skills, and I give them a hint that the Control D copies the red dot, and then I ask them to do it. I give extra credit, quote unquote extra credit, and then they write in their answer, and then when they submit it back to me, then I grade them, you know, A++, or sometimes I put a Bitmoji in there so that they see it. Whoops. So when they submit their stuff and I check it, and then I return it and they see the Bitmoji. So that's an example of what I have in my slide. Then I have the balloon game. I have my loom. I'm going to do it faster just because I don't listen to anything at one speed. I do everything 1.2, sometimes 1.5, but this is my going through my Google Slides as if I'm lecturing, so that the students, if they don't attend the live session, then they can at least watch the session asynchronously.
Hello, New Hall students. Welcome to the speech classroom. If you haven't been here before, you will notice that the calendar, the clock, the bookshelf, and my heart necklace all have red lines around them. If you click on them, it'll take you to a YouTube song or video. It talks about months of the year, days of the week, how to tell time. If you click on the bookshelf, it'll bring you to a free reading website. It goes from pre-K all the way up to 6th grade, so you can pick the level of reading that you're most comfortable with. And if you click on my heart necklace, it'll bring you to my videos of games and activities that I've done in the past. I've done videos on nouns, past tense verbs, prepositions. Our next page is, how are you feeling today?
Faster.
If you're feeling fantastic, put a star on fantastic. If you're feeling okay, put it on okay. If you're feeling so-so, put it on the orange one. If you're feeling kind of down,
I'm trying to get to that.
And then get what you think might be a noun, like a cell phone. That's a noun. That's a thing. Speech feature. That's a person. That's me. That's a noun. A place. Right now, I'm in my speech office. That's a noun. Office. And an animal. I have a dog at my house, so that's a noun. Now let's read our words. So if you know how to pronounce it, it's day. And then I'd like you to put into a sentence by saying, I can read this. It says day. Day is a noun. And if you needed a little hint, I added a picture. If you click on the red dot, it'll bring you to Google. And on the Google page, it has how to pronounce day. And you can practice it. You can listen to it. You can listen to it slowly. And if you're not pronouncing it the best way possible. It gives you suggestions and how to say it better.
So that's called translate.google. And it also has the document down here. It'll post it here, asking if you want to post the link, and then you just hit post. So that way the parents, after they watch the asynchronous video, they can click on the Google presentation, and then they can see exactly what I did. Here's the game, the boom cards. It's another video. And then the last one is balloon nouns, which kids really like. They all like it. It has nouns. It's a free website. It has nouns, it has pronouns, and it has verbs, I think. And it's on the list in my previous slide. Oh, so this is on the slow. So if you go over the noun, it'll have the sentence at the top if the kids are quick enough. So I do this in a loom, and then I give them the website so that they can play the game themselves, and they can play the game as many times as they want. So that's my 30-minute session that I post to Google Classroom. Now, just like I talked about the summer slide, here's an example of all of my summer slides. This is just what I have in my files. So this doesn't all go out to the parents. These are some things that you give them at the beginning of the school year, or that you keep in your files. But this is the schedule that I'm hoping to adopt this year for parents to make it easier. Here's my attendance sheet. Like I said, if you use Paradigm, then you don't need to write down the live sessions or the asynchronous Google Classroom date that you posted something. And I divide the students into the accommodations, who needs more help, who needs less help. So that way it's a reminder to me. I'd like to share this with the teachers, and I'd like to share this with the principal as well, so that we can all make sure that the students are getting what they need. I have an informed consent for the parents saying that they are agreeing to remote learning. This was really important in the spring, but I've kept it in my forms just so there's an added level of, you know, that the parents agree to it, that I have it on file. I have information for the parents, English and Spanish, for those parents who need the extra help. There's Google Translate. It's going to show you what my Google Slides look like the stars can be moved. The speaker means that I have a recording. The red dot sends you to Google Pronounce, so you can use it for articulation. And then if you use the present mode at the top and you see an arrow, it's a little hint to the student of what's there, and I'll show you. So we've seen that. We've seen that. I talk about growth mindset, just like emotional, social emotional. I've added this to the slide. You don't have to keep it in for every session, but I do like to refer back to it all the time. Here's what I was talking about earlier, the arts and crafts with regards to social emotional and COVID right now. At the beginning of the school year, I always do this social story about, well, why do you go to speech? What are your speech goals? And you can substitute OT for that and change the goal, change the story any way that you see fit. And basically it concludes with, so I get to help you talk, learn, read, write better forever. I have it in Spanish as well. Something that I wanted to point out is I am very aware of the fonts for dyslexia. So if you Google best fonts for dyslexia, Verdana, I don't even know how to pronounce it, that comes up. And also, there's another one, I forget what the other one is. There's Verdana. It's not architect. If I remember it, I'll write it in the Therapy Travelers. For special ed or speech, Turtle Diary has a lot of fun games, and it also has a quiz. So I don't do the whole quiz, but once a quarter or once a month, I do check to see whether the student is learning and succeeding with what the goals are. It's very hard to do the quiz if you don't have a solid reading skill, but then you do it along with them during a session, or you ask the parents to do it with them. It's just a sentence quiz, so there's no pictures or anything like that. In my Google slide, I have a table of contents. And you can adapt this again to whatever your specialty is. And then this is where we get started with what I would send the students. If you have our TIC students, you can send them all the same speech slide. And if you double click on the student, you can change the student's name. And it changes it, and then it'll send you to what your goal is. So say Margaret has SH, CH, and J, and these pictures every week or twice a week, you can just change the pictures for whatever you find on the computer. And then if you go back, it'll send you back to the student slide. So it has a go back button, which I love. And here's a website that's hyperlinked. It's called heatherspeechtherapy.com. That has SH words, but it obviously has any letter sound that you need. And then, like I described in the previous slides, I stack my weeks accordingly. So this would be the latest week. And here's today's activity. And I always write in my Google Classroom when I send an assignment. I say, do these activities at your own pace. You do not have to do them all at once, all in one sitting, or even one day. I always ask for feedback. Let me know whether this activity was too hard, just right, or too easy. I love the feedback from the students, and I love the feedback from the parents. I also tell them if they have any difficulties with the slides or the games to give me a call, because I am always available to them during school hours. It doesn't mean that I'm not in a session with them, but I will call them before the end of the day. And here is an asynchronous activity that I borrowed from a teacher. They were working on sight words, but my goal is nouns, pronouns, and verbs. So I adapted the activity so that the student could, oh, I did this already, but they're going to do it a different way. Now they're going to do it the speech way. And then this was the week prior. And here is a, not only exercising your tongue, but it's also a song video of its ABCs. But it does hand gestures as well as the phonics, as well as the letter. Whoop. Another thing that I took from a classroom, they're working on sounding out words, but my goal was consonant blends. I know for OTs, there is a computer keyboard goal for some students. So you can also use this. And if this is a articulation goal for our students, then I would write someplace along here the verbal cues that I provide, like a C makes a coughing sound, and I also do the hand gesture of, and then I do the R sound, and I make sure that that's together. So then the and that's how sounding out works in the classroom, and that's how my articulation goal imitates the classroom as well as addresses what I want. So I would encourage the students to use the slide that they're familiar with and practice their artic at the same time. So let's go back and let's pick something harder. So I go back to my table of contents, and it jumps to the slide that I want for prepositions, and that again is just an insert. Insert the link. So all of my slides have a lot of information on it, a lot of links, so that the students don't get bored. They have lots of places to click on. And I usually don't play, well, sometimes I play the songs in my live sessions. Yeah, I would say probably half the time I play, oh my goodness, look at the time. I play the songs again in my live sessions, but I really want to maximize my 30 minutes with them. So I remind them, don't forget to go back and watch the song, don't forget. And then I use the classroom sight words and I put silly things on them. And this is from these pictures, the backgrounds is from Slide Mania, which is what I talked about at the beginning of the webinar. It's on the list of websites that I use on a regular basis. But when you're talking about sight words, I overlap sight words with their language goal. So if the language goal is prepositions, I see what the preposition words in their sight words in the classroom are, and I go with that. I use those. Lots of sight words. And then I use my clip, and I got this from a website, and I just cut and pasted it onto a slide, and then I added a star, and then the instruction is put a star on the preposition. And then the students would resubmit these, and then I would give them their emoji, Bitmoji, you're doing the best, you're doing great work. And it's already 2 o'clock. Well, 2 o'clock my time. I hope this gave you a lot of ideas. And if you have questions, then I would love to hear from you in Margaret's Corner. But I'm just going to quickly go through some of my slides. This was a fun Simon Says game that I encourage the students to play with their family, and it's a following directions. This was OT Toolbox, which is another great website that gives free free slides, free information, free worksheets. And this was one of their following directions, but they have a whole bunch of them. I like the graphics from Pear Deck, but I use it asynchronously. I don't use it for my live sessions. So every single goal that you can think of, I mean, even our middle school students, you know, if you have a one-page book, or if you have a book and you're talking about the main idea, or compare and contrast, all of this can be adapted. And the last thing is, there's so much. I have so many pages of ideas. I encourage everybody to gamify their lessons with my tic-tac board I showed you before. The game board is, here's a game board, and this is from Slide Mania again. And the dice works, it's just from YouTube. And the way you add the dice is you insert and you search from the web. Matching game is, I use matchmemory.com, which is a free website. And if you don't want to make your own, these are my games. But if you're just starting out in teletherapy and just starting out on your website, on this website, then you go to the search bar and search CH words and see what other teacher has made a CH word game or a sight words game or mixed articulation. I mean, there's lots of already made games. And they have language as well as articulation. So if you want to look up plural nouns, if you want to look up past tense verbs, irregular past tense verbs. And I don't know whether you're familiar with flippity.com, but this is gamifying any kind of vocabulary word that you're trying to address. It has its board game, it has flashcards or quiz show. The quiz show is like Jeopardy. You know, you pick for 50 points and then it turns over and you ask the question and you get the answer. And this is great to play in the live sessions when you're doing a group of students. And it doesn't just have to be language games, you know, it could be anything. It could be if you're the psychologist and you're working on social emotional, any of the questions. I talked about Save YouTube or Safe YouTube so that you're not showing any advertisement. My Looms is where you make your own videos. the free books I talked about with Rivet. Whoop, Rivet. And then here's some of the websites that I listed. ABC Mouse, ABC Ya, Room Recess, which is for the older kids because it takes a little bit more computer skills. And I don't just tell the students to go to Room Recess. I make sure I give them a specific game to play there. This one is education.com. And then for the younger kids, Khan Kids is fun for the phone. And you can even, it's not on the computer, so you can't pull it up on the computer, but you can, in Zoom, you can share your phone on the computer screen. So you still can play Khan Kids on the computer screen during a live session with your younger students. But you can't go there directly on the computer. And I think that's everything. One of the tricks that I give the families, because sometimes the families tell me, you know, they're getting a little tired of, you know, remote teaching and remote learning on the television, on the computer, is I tell them, use every mode possible. Use your phone, use your tablet. If you know how to cast to your television screen, then cast whatever game or whatever video to the television screen. So that way kids are not just sitting at the kitchen table or sitting on the couch. They can see it in all different modalities, and it makes it a little bit more fun. They can watch one of my videos while they're playing with Play-Doh with their hands, you know. We have to make it fun. We have to continue to try and make it fun for the students and not torturous for the parents. And I think that's it. That was a lot of information. I hope I made sense. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. And if anybody has any last questions, I know I'm 8 minutes after the hour, so if anybody needs to go, I thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions, you can't stay, and you have any questions later, please contact me, because I love to hear your successes, and I want to continue to help you do a good job in August and September and October, and how long we'll be doing remote teaching, I don't know. And I wish everyone good health, most importantly. Geneva, if you want to unmute, and if anybody has any quick questions.
Sure. Thank you so much all for joining the webinar. We really appreciate your participation. For Therapy Travelers employees, we're happy to connect with you. And you could definitely reach out to Margaret. For school districts, we're happy to set up a follow-up conversation to provide additional training if needed. We're really happy to support you during all of these changing times. And if there's anything else that you're needing, feel free to reach a fabulous webinar. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The webinar will be definitely available on our website. If anyone is needing to view it again, it will be on our website along with all the.
And for those of you who had asked for the certificate, I wasn't able to post it in the in the chat. So feel free to shoot a note into either the Margaret's Corner section on the website or else just to therapytravelers.com. There's a couple of sections per form. We can get that to you if you leave your email address if you need it. But otherwise, we look forward to being of support in whatever way it is that we can. And if you do need additional support and you're outside of the Therapy Travelers team, definitely touch base with us and we can work on helping to get you and your district colleagues